Hey everybody, and welcome to Destination Lab. Today we're looking at language barriers when traveling. Can you travel in Europe not knowing the language? Well, let's find out. Make sure to watch until the end, where we share our practical tips for language-free travel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help us provide you with more valuable and entertaining traveling tips, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Now, let's get straight to it. Imagine this. You're wandering the narrow cobblestone streets of a charming European town, surrounded by centuries-old architecture, the smell of fresh pastries wafting through the air. It's all picture perfect. Until you realize you have no idea how to ask for directions, order that mouth-watering croissant, or even locate the nearest bathroom. The signs are all in the language that looks like a Scrabble board gone wrong, and the locals are chatting away in a tongue you can't even begin to decipher. Panic starts to creep in. Sound familiar? If the idea of travelling through Europe without knowing the local language has ever sent a shiver down your spine, you're not alone. The good news? It's totally doable. And it might just be a lot more fun than you actually think. Sure, the prospect of navigating a foreign land without a shared language can be quite intimidating, but it's also an adventure in and of itself. You don't need to be a polyglot to soak up the sights, the sounds and the flavors of Europe. You just need a few handy tools, a sprinkle of confidence, and maybe a sense of humor. In this video, we'll dive into the reality of traveling in Europe without knowing the language. We'll explore how modern tools, a little bit of non-verbal communication, and a whole lot of enthusiasm can make your European journey just as smooth and maybe even more memorable than even if you spoke the language fluently. So, pack your bags, leave your language anxiety at home, and let's hit the road. Europe is a mosaic of languages with over 200 distinct tongues spoken across the continent. From the romance of French and Italian to the complexities of Hungarian and Finnish, the linguistic diversity here is absolutely staggering. For many travelers, this can feel like a daunting challenge. After all, how do you get by when you don't understand a single word of what's being said around you? First, let's bust a myth. You don't need to be fluent in the local language to enjoy your time in Europe. In many popular tourist destinations, especially in Western and Northern Europe, English is widely spoken. In cities like Amsterdam, Berlin and Copenhagen, you'll often find that most locals, particularly younger people and those working in tourism, are more than happy to switch to English. Even in countries where English isn't as prevalent, such as rural parts of Spain or Italy, people are usually patient and willing to help even if communication requires a bit of creativity. Said, not all regions are equally English friendly. Eastern Europe, for example, can present more of a challenge, especially in smaller towns. But here's the thing, these language barriers aren't insurmountable. In fact, they often add to the charm and the authenticity of your experience. You'll discover that with a mix of basic phrases, gestures and a positive attitude, you can navigate even the most linguistically challenging environments with relative ease. So, is traveling through Europe without knowing the language difficult? Sometimes, yeah. Impossible? Absolutely not. In today's digital age, language barriers are less of a brick wall and more of a speed bump on your European adventure. Thanks to a plethora of tools and resources, you can easily bridge the communication gap and focus on enjoying your trip. Let's dive into some of the best tools at your disposal. First up, translation apps. The MVP in this category is Google Translate. This app is a lifesaver, offering real-time text translations for over 100 languages. You can even use your phone's camera to translate signs, menus, or any text you encounter on the go. One of its coolest features is the conversation mode, which allows you to have a back and forth dialogue with someone in their language, with the app translating both sides. While not perfect, of course, it's incredibly handy for quick exchanges. For those who like to be a bit more prepared, language learning apps like Duolingo or Babbel can give you a head start before your trip. These apps focus on teaching you basic phrases and vocabulary in a fun, game-like format. Even if you only spend a few minutes a day practicing, you'll be surprised how much you can actually pick up before your plane lands. Knowing how to say hello, please, thank you, and how much does this cost, etc. can go a long way in making your interactions a lot smoother. But what if your phone dies, or you're in a no-service zone? That's where old school tools like phrasebooks or printable flashcards come in handy. These are great for quick reference and don't rely on battery life. Plus, flipping through a phrasebook can be a charming way to pass the time at a cafe while sipping your espresso. In addition to these tools, don't forget the power of maps, both digital and paper. Apps like Google Maps not only help you navigate but often include translations for place names and points of interest. And if all else fails, a simple map with visual cues can help you find your way or communicate with locals without uttering a word. With these resources at your fingertips, you'll find that overcoming language barriers isn't just possible, it's actually pretty easy. Your smartphone and a little bit of preparation are all you need to turn those intimidating foreign words into just another part of your adventure. When words fail, your body language steps in as the ultimate universal translator. Non-verbal communication is a powerful tool, especially when you're traveling in a place where you don't speak the language. It's amazing how much you can convey without saying a single word. Gestures, for instance, are incredibly effective. A simple smile can work wonders, breaking down barriers and signaling friendliness. Pointing, nodding, or using your hands to mimic actions like pretending to eat when you're looking for a restaurant can get your message across in an instant. Just be mindful that some gestures can have different meanings in different cultures, so a quick brush up on local customs can help avoid any unintended faux pas. Body language extends beyond gestures, of course. Your facial expressions, tone of voice, and even posture can communicate volumes. Showing patience, maintaining eye contact, and nodding along while someone speaks can all signal that you're engaged and trying to understand, even if the words are lost on you. And don't forget the power of laughter. Shared humor, even in the face of miscommunication, can turn a confusing situation into a memorable bonding experience. Visual cues and signage are also your allies. Many public places, especially tourist spots, use international symbols, like the universal icons for restrooms, exits, or public transportation. These visual aids can guide you when spoken language doesn't. In the end, non-verbal communication is all about being creative, observant, and open to a bit of improv. With these skills, you'll find that the world speaks a language that everyone understands. No dictionary required. Traveling in Europe isn't just about seeing the sights. It's about immersing yourself in the rich tapestry of cultures that make up the continent. While language barriers can be a challenge, respecting local customs and showing cultural sensitivity can go a really long way in smoothing your interactions with the locals. One of the simplest ways to show respect is by learning a few basic phrases in the local language. A heartfelt hello, please, or thank you can instantly warm up a conversation and show that you're making an effort. Even if your pronunciation isn't perfect, locals will appreciate the gesture and are often more inclined to help you out. Understanding and respecting cultural norms is equally important. In some countries, like France or Italy, formal greetings with titles like Monsieur or Signora are a sign of respect, especially when addressing older individuals or in professional settings. In Scandinavian countries, directness and personal space are valued, so being aware of these subtleties can help you avoid awkward moments. Another key aspect of etiquette is patience. Not everyone you encounter will speak English or be familiar with your cultural norms, so it is important to remain calm and polite, even if communication becomes difficult. A little patience and a friendly attitude can turn a potentially frustrating encounter into a positive exchange. Ultimately, cultural awareness and etiquette are about building bridges, not just across language barriers, but across cultural ones as well. By embracing these practices, you'll find that your travels in Europe become richer and more rewarding as you connect with locals in a meaningful way. Regardless of the language gap, there's nothing quite like hearing from fellow travelers who have navigated Europe without knowing the local languages. Their stories are a testament to the fact that while language barriers can be tricky, they're far from insurmountable. In fact, these challenges often lead to some of the most memorable and rewarding travel experiences. Take Sarah, for instance, a solo traveler who spent a month exploring rural France. Despite knowing only basic French phrases, she managed to strike up friendships with locals in a small village. How? Through a mix of smiles, gestures, and the trusty Google Translate app. Sarah recalls one evening in a tiny town where she was invited to a local dinner party. The language barrier was real, but with a little help from her phone and a lot of laughter, she ended up learning more about French culture than she ever could have from a guidebook. Then there's Alex and Jess, a couple who backpacked through Eastern Europe. They found themselves in a small Hungarian town where English was very scarce. After a few awkward attempts at ordering food, they realized that pointing to items on the menu was their best bet. The language struggle was real, but the locals, they were patient and even taught them a few Hungarian phrases along the way. By the end of their meal, they had bonded with the restaurant staff, and even though they could barely communicate verbally, the shared experience was unforgettable. Of course, not every moment is smooth sailing, right? There are times when language barriers can lead to misunderstandings, like when Jess accidentally ordered a plate of raw fish thinking it was something entirely different. But these hiccups often become the stories you laugh about later. And the key takeaway from these travelers' experiences? Embrace the challenge. Whether it's getting lost in translation or making a new friend without speaking the same language, these moments are what make travel so enriching. The stories you collect, the lessons you learn, and the connections that you make along the way will stay with you long after your trip ends. Traveling in Europe without knowing the local language may seem intimidating, but it's an adventure that's entirely within your reach. With the right tools, a bit of preparation, and a willingness to embrace non-verbal communication, you can navigate the continent with ease. Language barriers often lead to some of the most memorable and enriching experiences, turning potential challenges into opportunities for connection and discovery. So don't let language anxiety hold you back. Pack your bags, download your favorite translation app, and set off on your European adventure with confidence. The world is more connected than ever, and with a smile and a bit of creativity, you will find that Europe is ready to welcome you no matter what language you speak. Many thanks for watching. That's it for this time. For more content like this, just click on this playlist right here. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.